They don't fear you when you're born. They fear you when you leave. Azrael, the angel of death, the silent collector of souls, the one who stands between time and eternity, has been erased from modern memory, misnamed as monster, misunderstood as a grim executioner. But what if we've been wrong all along? What if death is not a curse, but a sacred return? And Azrael, not your enemy, but your final guide home. Why have we called him terrifying when ancient scrolls spoke of his gentleness? Why has the church remained silent while mystics and prophets trembled before his presence? What if the most feared angel is actually the one who remembers your name when the world forgets? In this video, you'll discover the hidden truth about Azrael, the biblical angel of death found in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic traditions. We'll explore the Book of Souls, the moment of your final breath, and the mysterious kiss of death he once gave to Moses. You'll learn why souls that resist truth suffer, while those who walk in righteousness are lifted like silk from oil, peaceful, weightless, glorious. This is not about superstition. This is about divine order, and it changes everything you think you know about dying. Death is not the end. It's the beginning of recognition. Azrael doesn't kill. He waits. He watches. He remembers. And when your soul is ready, he does not take. It follows. So I ask you now, if this was your final day on earth, would your soul tremble or rejoice? Drop your thoughts below. Do you believe Azrael is an angel of mercy or a feared executioner? Let the conversation begin. If this resonates with your spirit, if you feel the weight and wonder of this message, don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this sacred truth. There's more to unveil, and it begins now. Where is Azrael in the Bible and ancient texts? They say his name is whispered, not proclaimed. Not printed on the golden pages of your Sunday sermon, not carved into the stained glass of cathedral walls. Yet he is there. In the silence between Genesis and Revelation, Azrael stands watchful. You won't find his name in the Protestant canon, and yet, in the depths of the Quran, in the folds of Jewish mysticism, in the echoes of the Apocrypha, the angel of death waits, revered, recorded, and rarely understood. In Islamic tradition, he is called Malak al-Maut, the angel of death, assigned by God himself to return each soul to its maker. The Quran speaks not with fear, but with clarity. The angel of death, who has been given charge of you, will take your soul. Then to your Lord you will be returned. Quran 32:11. He does not roam aimlessly. He is assigned, designated, empowered. In Jewish law, especially in the Midrash and Kabbalistic writings, Azrael is the embodiment of divine compassion disguised in solemn duty. He doesn't strike out of vengeance, he merely fulfills a purpose decreed before time began. In the Zohar, the mystical Jewish text, Azrael is not seen as a violent force, but as a careful servant of transition, ferrying the soul gently from the world of shadows to the light of eternal truth. And though he is not named directly in the canonical Bible, his presence pulses beneath the narrative. When the firstborn of Egypt fall, when Ananias and Sapphira collapse, when Herod is struck down by an angel, is it not him who watches silently from behind the veil? Scholars have debated his identity, but the pattern is unmistakable. He is the unseen executor, the divine ambassador of endings. Why then has the Western Church hidden him from view? Is it fear? Is it misunderstanding? Or is it a collective refusal to look death in the eyes and see mercy instead of punishment? Let this truth rise in you like dawn. Azrael is not forgotten by God, even if forgotten by men. And the reason his name is hidden may not be to deny him, but to draw us to seek him more deeply. In every sacred tradition where he appears, his duty is the same, not to terrorize, not to condemn, but to deliver the soul back to its origin. This is no villain. This is the hand of healing disguised as shadow. So let us begin to remember what religion forgot. Comment below. Do you believe the angel of death was erased from your faith tradition, or has he simply been misunderstood? Share what you've heard or feared or believed. Let the conversation unravel the silence. As we peel back the mystery of Azrael's name, we now step into the deeper question. If no scripture exalted him, how did he rise to carry such weight? The divine burden. Why no angel wanted the job. In the beginning, the heavens were flooded with light, flawless, undisturbed, obedient. The angels did not hunger, they did not weep, they only worshipped. Then came a decree that shattered eternity's stillness. Death shall enter the world, not as judgment, but as return. God's voice, eternal and sovereign, asked a single question. Who will carry the weight of my children's final moment? Not one angel stepped forward. Not Michael, though he led armies. Not Gabriel, though he announced destinies. Not Raphael, though he stitched wounds with divine fingers. They bowed their heads, not in rebellion, but in reverence. Because this task was too heavy. Not brutal, but unbearably sacred. Death, you see, was never meant to be cruel. It was meant to be holy. A thin, sacred veil between the world that is fading and the one that has always been. And to part that veil, to hold the trembling soul at its most vulnerable instant, was a task no angel dared to touch. Until one stepped forward, no thunder, no proclamation, just obedience without condition. Azrael. He didn't ask how long. He didn't ask how many. He didn't demand glory or authority. He simply said yes. And from that moment, the celestial hierarchy shifted. Power did not rise from might, but from surrender. Azrael became the unseen cornerstone. His was not the crown of war or prophecy, but of silent obedience. He would become the only angel to touch every human life. Not once, but forever. Imagine that. Imagine saying yes to a task no one wanted, to be the last face every soul sees, to witness every goodbye, to feel every fear, to hear every final word never spoken. Imagine carrying the grief of every generation and never letting it make you bitter. That is Azrael. This is not the story of a grim shadow lurking in the night. This is the story of the angel who dared to feel and still obeyed. When no one else could hold the sorrow of mankind, he carried it like a cradle, not like a weapon, and he never complained. You who hear this, how many times have you walked away from grief, from pain, from loss because it felt too heavy? What if you were called to hold space for someone else's sorrow, and do it without applause, without thanks? Azrael's example is not just divine, it is human. To love so deeply that you stay present, even when the world turns cold. Comment below. Have you ever had to carry something alone because no one else would? What did it teach you? Now that we've seen his willingness, let's step closer to the moment when Azrael begins his sacred work. What death really feels like. Two drastically different journeys. They say no two deaths are alike, and they're right, because no two souls are alike. When Azrael comes, he does not come with chains or fire. He comes with memory. He comes with clarity. He comes as a mirror, and how he is felt depends not on him, but on you. For the soul that lived in peace, that chose patience over pride, forgiveness over fury, prayer over ego, Azrael comes as a breeze through a silk curtain, as cool water on a burning forehead. They say it feels like a single thread pulled from warm honey, weightless, clean, sacred. The righteous do not fear him. They welcome him like an old friend who always knew when to arrive. One nurse, A hospice worker from New Mexico described it best. She wasn't in pain. It was like the room turned golden for a second, and I swear she smiled before she even passed. I've seen that before, more than once. Azrael may not be seen, but his fingerprint is unforgettable. But for the soul who clings, who resists, who lies, who lives for self and shuns truth, it is not so gentle, not because Azrael is cruel, but because they won't let go. The body fails, but the soul grips. It claws for control, for one more minute, one more deal, one more lie. And so the separation rips. Like thorns through soaked wool, tangled, slow and agonizing. Not by God's anger, but by the soul's own chains. Pain at death does not come from heaven. It comes from within. Every unresolved bitterness, every unspoken truth, every selfish act anchors the soul to a dying world, and Azrael must still pull, but not with rage, with tears. In ancient writings it said Azrael has 1,000 eyes, and when a soul passes, the eye that saw it weeps. That's the kind of grief he carries, not horror, but holy sorrow. He never forces, he only fulfills, and yet each departure leaves an imprint on the soul and on him. There is a lesson here for the living. You are shaping your death by how you live. Every time you let go of control, every time you surrender pride, you make your final hour gentler. Every time you forgive, you loosen the rope. You are not just building a legacy, you are preparing your departure. Have you ever seen a person pass peacefully? Have you ever witnessed a death that felt like a blessing instead of a tragedy? Tell us in the comments. You're not alone, and neither are they. Now, as we pass from the doorway of death's experience, we enter Azrael's eternal ledger, the Book of Souls, where every name, including yours, is written. And when your name fades, he comes. The Scroll of Souls, Azrael's silent ledger. There exists a book no man has seen, and yet it holds every name that has ever breathed. It is not the book of life spoken of in Revelation, though it echoes the same sacred pulse. This book is different. It is older than kings and more exact than time. They call it the Scroll of Souls, and Azrael holds it. Not like a trophy, but like a trust. This scroll does not speak of sin or reward. It does not judge nor prophesy. It is a record of presence, the heartbeat of the human race etched in divine ink. Each name glows when it enters the world and dims as it prepares to leave. And when your name fades, Azrael knows. He does not rush. He does not panic. He arrives, unseen, but always on time. It's been said in mystic circles that Azrael has 1,000 eyes, and each eye is tied to a soul. When a soul departs, the corresponding eye closes in grief, not from sorrow for himself, but because he remembers the story of that life. Not one moment is lost, not one tear unnoticed. Imagine being held in the gaze of a celestial being who never forgets your pain. That is mercy. That is Azrael. In Sufi tradition, this sacred ledger is called Al-Law al-Mahfuz, the preserved tablet, where destinies are inscribed. And though God alone authors it, Azrael reads it with reverence. He doesn't edit, he doesn't erase. He only watches and obeys. And when your final moment draws near, your name begins to shimmer like a flame about to burn out. That's when he rises, silently, gently. Think about that. Your soul is being tracked not by algorithms, not by governments, but by divine awareness, not to control you, but to welcome you when your journey ends. You are not forgotten. You are watched in holiness. And when the time comes, you will be met, not by chaos, but by calm. Because Azrael doesn't come to collect a number. He comes to carry a name. Let this truth heal something in you. You are seen. You are recorded in a book that has no error, no bias, no confusion. The same book holds the names of the prophets, the martyrs, the forgotten, the hated, the broken. And yours, equal ink, equal love. Have you ever felt invisible in this world, like your life didn't register, like no one would notice if you vanished? You were wrong because Azrael noticed and heaven knows your name. Now that we've seen the sacred record he keeps, let's visit one of its most luminous names, Moses, the prophet of fire and law, whose death rewrote what we thought we knew about Azrael. Was Moses afraid to die? There are few names that burn brighter in Scripture than Moses. The man who saw the sea split, who spoke with God face to face, whose hands held the commandments carved by heaven's own fire. If anyone could outrun death, surely it was him. But even Moses met Azrael. According to Jewish tradition, when the time came for Moses to die, he wasn't ready. Not because he feared death, but because he loved life. He loved his people, his mission, the promise that lay just beyond the Jordan. And so, when Azrael came, Moses asked for more time. A pause, a breath, a final glance at the promised land he would never enter, and God in his mercy allowed it. Azrael stepped back. He waited. He does not take souls unwillingly. He does not drag or demand. He stands at the door until the soul opens it from within. Moses ascended the mountain alone. The sun hung low. The land stretched before him, glowing with promises he had carried through plagues, deserts, betrayals, and miracles. And then, when Moses knew that the journey was complete, not perfect, not painless, but complete, Azrael returned. There are whispers in rabbinic tradition that Azrael did not remove Moses' soul with force, but with a kiss. Not a kiss of death, but a kiss of fulfillment. Like a father lifting a sleeping child from a carriage into his arms. No agony, no fear, just return. This image of death is not just poetic, it is revolutionary. Because even the greatest of prophets did not escape death, but in death they found peace, because they had fulfilled what was written. And Azrael, though silent, honored their story with the same stillness he offers to us all. Have you ever watched someone pass away with grace, with closure, with clarity? That is what happened to Moses, and that is what awaits those who live faithfully. Because Azrael does not fear your greatness, he honors it. He comes not to interrupt, but to complete. There is a powerful lesson here. Death is not a failure of faith. It is the final fulfillment of it. The prophets died. Jesus died. Not in defeat, but in divine sequence. So the next time you imagine death as a monster, remember the mountain, remember the kiss, and remember that even those who saw God did not run from Azrael. They walked with him, willingly. From this moment of sacred parting, we move now into how everything we think we know about the angel of death has been distorted, and why it matters now more than ever to see clearly again. Common misconceptions about the angel of death. They drew him with hollow eyes, skeleton hands, and a blade made for slaughter. They cloaked him in black and called him the Grim Reaper. They turned Azrael, the gentle guardian of transition, into a fear-soaked symbol of horror. But what if that image was never true? What if it was a lie shaped by fear, our fear, not his nature? The Grim Reaper, we know today, didn't come from scripture. He came from medieval paintings, war-ravaged cities, and plague-ridden streets. In a time where death was everywhere and no answers were given, people created a symbol, someone to blame. So they imagined death as cruel, cold, faceless, a monster, and that image stuck. But Azrael has never been that creature. He doesn't wear bones. He wears presence. He doesn't carry a blade. He carries time. And he doesn't kill. He waits until you're ready to let go. The tragedy is that in fearing him, we forgot him. We forgot that his mission is not punishment, but passage, not horror, but healing. And by turning him into a threat, we've trained generations to fear something meant to be sacred. Think about it. How many children grow up afraid of dying? Not because they understand eternity, but because they saw a cartoon or a movie that painted death as demonic. How many adults panic at the thought of passing, not because of what awaits them, but because they've never been shown what it really looks like? This is the wound Azrael carries, not in himself, but in us. The wound of misnaming, of misrepresenting mercy. But the truth is rising again. And if you're reading this, you're part of that healing. You're reclaiming what the fearmongers tried to erase. You're remembering the angel of death is not an executioner. He is an escort. He does not rip you from life, he returns you to source. Let's rewrite the story. Comment below. What image of death did you grow up with, and how has it changed now? As we restore the truth about Azrael's nature, we now approach the most intimate moment of all, the moment of breath and soul separating. The moment Azrael steps in, not as stranger, but as the most faithful one who has always been near, the gentle presence at your last breath. There is a moment, so quiet it humbles thunder, so holy it silences fear. The moment the soul begins to rise, no alarms ring, no flames roar, just a stillness, a pause so deep the universe seems to hold its breath. And in that pause, Azrael arrives. He does not knock, he does not announce himself, because the soul already knows him. On a level deeper than memory, more ancient than time itself, the soul recognizes its escort, not as a stranger, but as the one who has always waited. This is not a theft, this is a reunion. For those who have lived with kindness, who have walked in humility, who have loved in truth and repented in secret, Azrael appears like a soft wind gliding through an open window. His presence is not cold, it's cooling. His arrival is not abrupt, it's like stepping from shadow into morning light. The righteous feel no panic, they feel peace. Not because they have all the answers, but because they sense they are finally safe. Hospice nurses across the world, believers or not, speak of the light, of rooms filled with warmth seconds before death, of peaceful faces glowing like the setting sun. One described it like this: there's a sacred silence just before the final breath, not emptiness, fullness, like someone is there, invisible but embracing. That someone, we believe, is Azrael. But not every soul greets him with calm. There are those whose souls thrash, not because Azrael brings torment, but because the soul itself is still trying to control what it must surrender. The prideful cling, the greedy grasp, the soul that never learned to let go will in the end have to be pulled. And even then, Azrael remains gentle, not indifferent, sorrowful, because he remembers the day he said yes to this work. He remembers the promise to remain faithful even to those who resist. The pain does not come from him. It comes from the soul's own anchors: power, money, unhealed wounds, unforgiveness. And so the moment stretches, not because heaven is cruel, but because the soul is still at war with itself. Azrael doesn't judge, he doesn't argue, he waits. He holds, he releases. In this, there is a lesson for the living. We prepare for death not with fear, but with freedom. Every time you forgive, you loosen the knot. Every time you surrender ego, you open the door. Every time you love with sincerity, you clear the path. So when your breath begins to slow, your soul will not resist the one who has always watched in silence. Death, in its true form, is not horror. It is the last healing, the moment the soul sheds what it no longer needs and begins the return. Azrael does not destroy. He delivers. He does not bind. He blesses. Have you ever been with someone as they passed? Have you felt the air change, the atmosphere still? That was not nothing. That was not just biology. That was presence. Share in the comments. Have you ever felt something sacred in the final moment of someone's life? Your story may heal another soul's fear. And now, as the veil thins, we turn from the final breath toward the ultimate reason for all of this. Not just how we die, but how we should live. Because what Azrael shows us at the end should transform how we walk through the middle. Lessons for the living. What Azrael teaches us about life. Azrael's touch is reserved for death, but his message is a map for the living. For in witnessing the final moments of billions of souls, he has seen what truly matters, what lingers, what heals, what haunts. He has stood beside kings with empires who cried in terror, and he has cradled orphans who died with peace. He has watched prophets embrace him with joy, and tyrants recoil in dread. The pattern is clear. What you carry into your final breath is what you cultivated in everyone before it. And this is the gift no one tells us Azrael brings. Not just mercy at the end, but reflection for the journey. Through him, we see the truth. That life is not measured in time, but in truth. That no wealth has ever softened death. That no fame has ever silenced the soul's shame. But every act of compassion, every secret prayer, every hidden act of forgiveness, that is what makes the soul light enough to rise without resistance. The righteous are not perfect. They are humble. They are repentant. They are lovers of peace and seekers of God's face. And because of that, Azrael meets them like a friend, not a force. There's a story told of a simple man, nameless in history, who lived as a tailor. He gave to the poor, stitched coats for orphans, and prayed in secret behind his shop curtain. When he died, the villagers saw nothing but an old man gone. But the night before his death, he told his grandson, "A man in light came to my bedside. He said I was known, that my name was recorded in his book, and that I didn't need to be afraid anymore." That man was not a prophet, not a priest, but his soul had become familiar with surrender. And so, Azrael did not frighten him. He fulfilled him. This is what we forget in a world addicted to image and applause. Azrael does not ask how many followers you had. He asks how many wounds you healed. He does not count your posts. He weighs your peace. The greatest irony is that the angel of death may be the greatest teacher of life, because only he has seen what remains when everything else is stripped away, and what remains is what you gave away in love. So live ready, not afraid but aligned. Speak truth. Forgive deeply. Leave nothing unsaid to those you cherish. Pray with intention. Build not for applause, but for eternity. Azrael is not your enemy. He is your reminder that this breath matters, that this day counts, that the way you love today is the way you'll rise tomorrow. What would your final moment reveal if it came tonight? Are you carrying peace or pretending to? Comment below. What have you learned from someone else's death? Has it shaped how you live now? And with that reflection, we begin to turn toward the final chapter. The last gate, where Azrael no longer represents a moment, but a mercy. Where we no longer fear him, but welcome his role as the sacred escort between worlds. Not even the prophets escaped his presence. Not even the purest hearts or the greatest heroes could outrun the moment when Azrael, the angel of death, stepped silently across the threshold of time and reached toward their soul, not to harm it, not to claim it, but to honor it, because death is not defeat. It is a divine unveiling, and Azrael is not a shadow of terror. He is the closing light at the end of a beautiful song. The stories have spoken. The scroll has turned, You now know the truth that has long been buried beneath fear, forgotten in doctrine, distorted by superstition. Azrael is not your punishment. He is your passage. He is not the executioner painted on graveyard gates, but the holy sentinel who holds the door open as the soul crosses into the arms of the Creator. His name may be missing from the printed page, but his presence is etched in every sacred breath that leaves the body with peace. Think of it. Every final heartbeat you've witnessed, every whisper at a deathbed, every tear held back when someone took their last breath. He was there, present, not absent, gentle, not grim, with eyes that remember and hands that never falter. This is the angel the world forgot. But perhaps now you have remembered him. And in that remembering, something shifts inside you. A warmth, a hush, a calling. Because if Azrael's presence is shaped by the life you live, then your every moment matters. Not your titles, not your triumphs, but your truth. Every time you forgive someone who doesn't deserve it, you loosen the grip of fear. Every time you pray for a stranger, you make space for peace. Every act of humility, every hidden kindness, every time you choose mercy over pride, you are shaping your final moment with beauty. He does not come like a thief. He comes like a servant. And when the soul is ready, it rises with such ease that not even the body realizes it's gone. That is the reward of the righteous, not in gold, not in applause, but in a departure so sacred it feels like homecoming. We live in a world where the conversation around death is hidden, hushed, painted in grey. But what if we chose to see it in gold? What if we began to tell the truth? That death is not darkness, but the lifting of the veil. That Azrael is not the enemy, but the faithful one, who watched your journey from the beginning and has come to walk you home. What if every funeral was not a defeat, but a release? The healing begins when we stop fearing him, and when we start preparing, not with panic, but with purpose. When you wake up tomorrow, choose to live like someone who has nothing to prove and everything to love. Call the person you've been avoiding. Pray without waiting for disaster. Speak with kindness, even when no one hears. These are the choices that free the soul. These are the threads that Azrael will one day gather into his arms like silk from oil. If you feel something stirring in your spirit right now, a warmth you can't name, a quiet peace pressing against your heart, that's not coincidence. That's the truth settling inside you. Let it stay. Let it grow. Let it change the way you see life and the way you release your grip on fear. And if this video has brought light into your darkness, if it has given your soul a reason to breathe deeper, to walk softer, to believe again in the mystery and mercy of eternity, then I invite you, gently with love, to support this journey. If you'd like to send a little energy back to help me continue making videos that speak life, hope, and healing to a hurting world, your support means more than words could say. Even the smallest offering of encouragement carries the power of 1,000 thank yous. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. May this truth stay with you, not just when death knocks, but while life still blooms. May you live with the awareness that your soul is always being watched over, that your name is written, that your story is seen. And when your final moment comes, may Azrael meet you not with fear, but with familiarity, with silence, with gentleness, with light. And now I open the circle to you. What does death mean to you now? Do you still fear it? Or has something shifted in the way you see it? Have you ever felt the presence of something unseen when someone passed? Have you ever encountered the sacred when you expected sorrow? I would be honored to read your story in the comments. Let's gather these stories together, not in silence, but in sacred remembrance. And if your spirit is still resonating with the truth we've shared, if you want to continue exploring the hidden things, the veiled mysteries, the unseen mercies, subscribe to this channel, like this video, share it with someone who needs a whisper of hope, because truth like this was never meant to be hidden. It was meant to be held. Azrael is waiting, not in fear, but in faith. And one day, when the light grows quiet, and the breath slows, and the world turns soft, he will come to you, not to take, but to receive, to cradle, to carry, and to bring you home.